Hey friends, Kathy Lanzalonco here. Welcome to another episode of Inspire Career Spotlight on Careers, the video podcast series where I bring you best-in-class information from career management professionals and inspiring storytellers from all over the career management space to give you best-in-class information and help you advance in your careers and in your life. And today I'm very excited for my guest, Susan Ruckdeschel. Hi, Susan.
Well, hi, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is going to be a real treat for everybody. Wait till you hear Susan's story. I'm super excited. Ladies, this one is really for you today. You got a sense of adventure. You want to branch out. You want to do more than you're doing now, and you're a little bit afraid, not sure what to do. Susan is the person to listen to. So let me introduce her. Let me read a little bit of her bio, and it'll kind of blow your mind, and we'll go from there. And then we'll talk about Susan's story, and she'll share with you what she's done and what she's doing, and I hope you see yourself in it. So Susan Ruckdeschel is an author with a lifelong passion for literacy, creative writing, and global travel. Born in Rochester, New York, her degrees include a BA in creative writing, an MS in education, and a doctorate in supervision of curriculum and instruction. Susan began her career as a New York State reading teacher, working in Glens Falls and Yonkers, where she conducted writing and poetry clubs for her students. She later became an administrator, and with publication Peer Coaching for Adolescent Writers, a handbook for teachers, she began consultancy throughout the U.S. Soon afterwards, Dr. Susan Ruckdeschel founded two e-learning companies, Literacy Solutions and More Inc., which she sold in 2018, and Blended by Design, LLC. In addition to her handbook, Dr. Susan has authored hundreds of courses and blogs for adults, teachers, and K-12 students. Now retired, Susan wrote a memoir entitled Wanderlust, Anywhere But Here, with expected publication in the upcoming months. And we're going to talk about her teaching history a bit. We're going to talk about her second act, her third, and her fourth. So welcome, Susan.
Thanks, Kathy.
So I introduced you here and I told a little bit, but why don't you just talk to us a little bit? You know, so many people out there are in a lot of traditional careers, and you started in teaching. Tell us a little bit about that and how that took you beyond the classroom.
Okay, sure. Well, actually, I started out wanting to be a writer and quickly realized that I was limited in my earning potential as a writer. So I kind of put the creative writing on the back burner and decided the smartest thing for me to do would be a teacher and teach my kids how to write creatively and teach English language arts. So I did that. And I also made the decision because I was about to be a mom. And I thought, what a perfect career to have to be a mom with summers off and, lots of vacation time. So it was a nice intersection. I love kids anyway. I remember helping my younger brother read because he had a reading disability growing up, and I really enjoyed that. So I decided to become a reading teacher and inspire kids to read and write. And I have to say, I did a good job. My kids always did better. It was in the day, though, before the Common Core and really tight curricular restrictions. So I pretty much could do what I wanted. And a lot of it involved engaging kids and inspiring them and teaching them, in a very overt way also. So that track eventually led me to publish a book because I always ran writing clubs, after school writing clubs. So, I was a teacher and I did what I had to do. But the fun part really was those after school writing clubs. And in Glens Falls, we called ourselves the Travel Poets. And we would meet after school on Fridays, and we'd read our poetry aloud to each other and give each other feedback. And it eventually became a structured process that I published a book about, having field tested it with my students. So that's what led to peer coaching for adolescent writers. But we also used to go around to local coffee shops and read on weekends, do our performance poetry. And parents would come, teachers would come, the whole community would get together. It was lots of fun. I did some of that in Yonkers as well. So once the book got published, my daughter was in high school, and I thought, well, maybe it's time for me to change gears a little bit. It opened up a lot of consulting doors. The book did. I have to say, I never really made any money at all on the book itself, but it opened up a lot of doors. So I decided to become a consultant, and as the book was adopted in schools and as other things were adopted, I eventually became pretty skilled at any curriculum, ELA, show you how to use it. So I went around the country for probably about 10 years and also in New York City and all the boroughs, and worked with teachers in the classrooms, showing them how to adopt either my curriculum or curriculum of a third-party vendor. And that was a lot of fun. It fed my travel gene and my need to continue teaching and working with teachers and kids at the same time.
Well, as you're talking about teaching and how you started, I think about how much teaching has changed probably since you started, and what teachers are dealing with now and how much it's changed over the years.
Well, like I said, I was free to do what I wanted, and I did. I did what made sense. I remember working with my younger brother who struggled mightily to read and to write, and I remembered his baseline for frustration, and I always had that in mind when I worked with my kids. And I was always cognizant of their baseline for frustration, and I made sure I didn't tap that. I was careful. It's a dance that we have to walk, and a very careful one. But today, the dance is not about balancing their frustration with their need to be successful and moving them forward. It doesn't even regard that anymore. I feel like we have a paced curriculum, and you have to teach thus and such within this much time, and then you move on, whether the child is ready or not. And that is not how it works. It is not how it works.
Yeah, teachers are struggling. It's a lot different.
It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. My son's a teacher. I hear him talking about it, and it's very difficult. But you then transitioned into e-learning, which is really, when I went back to business school after I was a nurse, I did online learning, and at the time, it was kind of new, and now so many people are doing it. But tell us a little bit, you went into e-learning, you started creating content, and you started selling it. You started two businesses. So here's where the journey really gets exciting for people. And I know that there are people out there listening and going, "Ooh, I've dreamt about this kind of thing, writing my book and businesses." Tell us a little bit about that and how you started the businesses and how that transpired.
Well, interestingly, I was doing all this travel as a consultant, and eventually it wears out. You just want to be home. You want to snuggle with your pet or whatever. And I wasn't, I was really busy traveling. So that got old. And in the interim, I had turned my book into an online course, and I adopted Moodle, which is an open source software tool, and it's free. And I liked free. My budget needed free at the time. So I took a couple workshops on Moodle, and then found that there's a ton of online support, any open source technology. There's tons of online support if you're comfortable with that. So I taught myself Moodle. I hired somebody to install those initial plugins. You need a developer to get started. And I turned my whole book, I turnkeyed all that content into a Moodle course. And this way, when I consulted in the schools, I could leave my teachers with something. Well, this is back in the early 2000s, and, online learning just wasn't as big as it is now. Right. And I felt like they weren't adopting. I would show back up. I would go back 3-6 months later, and they didn't do anything with all the work we had done previously. And I found that they were far more likely to take the curriculum and run with it if they had some follow-up stuff. And if we could touch base also. So I designed discussion forums where we kept ongoing dialogue, and I front-loaded all these materials in it for them to access, and I created them all myself. So that's how that got started. And then I started consulting for third-party, all these vendors, Pearson, Edison Learning, and they hired me as a consultant to go to their schools and teach their curriculum. So I could do that, easy, hands tied behind my back, easy peasy. And then eventually, when I got sick of the travel, I said, well, I can take any subject, ELA, literacy, whatever, second language learner, and I can make my own course and design my own school. And then I don't have to schlep all over the country, because by then my house had been broken into, and all these problems from not being home. And I was sick of it. I was done. So that said, when my mind targets something, when I focus, it's like a dog on a bone. I just created a whole slew of courses in a year, and probably less than a year. I just was obsessed. My whole summer was spent developing courses. And once I mastered Moodle, and instructional design is highly creative and it's fun. So I could not get my head out of it. And then I partnered with somebody who was really good at selling. He was a retired pharmaceutical person and he wanted something to do. So I gave him a sales job and he did a fantastic job selling my courses to school districts around the country. And before I knew it, that company grew in 5 years. We took it to scale for sure. And then, as conflicts can happen with partners, and they did. And in addition to that, it kind of got bigger than I expected to get. So I thought maybe I should just sell it and calm down a little bit, And I had also sunk my teeth into travel around the world with my job. So I was taking all these online courses and my customers with me to Italy and to France and wherever I felt like going, because I had contractors doing all this work for me. And I would check in daily, So, and this was way before anybody was really doing this. And everybody was envying me for it. And I was like, well, I'm really just surviving because I don't have a job. This is my job, so I have to. But, it was nice because in Europe, you're 6 hours ahead. So I would get a good hike in and then sit down to work about 3:00 in the afternoon and work until 9 p.m. and then be done and still have some more fun because Europeans stay out late. So that's how that went.
I love that. That's a great segue. So let's talk a little bit about that, Susan, because this is all part of your story too. So, you start off with teaching and then you take that and you change that, you adapt, really is what you did. You adapt and you found a new outlet for your creativity and you built an entire business with that, right? And then you started traveling around. Let's talk about your travel a little because you are fascinating with your travel. And where have your travels taken you in terms of your life experience? And let's talk about that because I know a lot of people, ever since COVID, people are traveling. They're having more experiences where they're living overseas and that. Tell us about that because I know people want to hear about it.
Oh, well, it was lovely. And it was accommodated largely through home exchange. I had a home, a fairly large home. Not too far from New York City, about an hour north. So it was in a small city, Beacon, that had become popular. And I would easily get people to exchange homes with whether directly or for points. But I became very good at leveraging a home exchange with those travels so that I could afford to stay for longer than 10 days, 2 weeks. I would stay for a month. Once I stayed for 8 weeks in Italy. It was really wonderful. I even bought an apartment in Italy because I just fell in love with the travel. And it was no longer good enough for me to stay for 10 days or 2 weeks. I wanted 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then I wanted my own home there. I wanted to come to the same place whenever I wanted to and live like a European and take road trips. And so I did do all that. It was lots of fun. It just whet my appetite for more.
But let's talk about that because that was an adventure and it was a piece of time for you, but you didn't stay there permanently because when we met back here in the States. So tell us a little bit about what happened with that. And I know from talking to you, you've got another adventure plan, but let's talk about Italy a little bit. What brought you back here to the States?
Interestingly, too, the home was a little apartment, a little nest above a marina over the Mediterranean on the island of Sardinia. I fell in love with Sardinia. And at that time in my life, I was going through a big transition and a breakup, a very long relationship breakup. So I just wanted space and I wanted to be away from everything. And what more of a perfect solution in my mind at that time than an island in the middle of the Mediterranean that nobody here had heard of. Who's heard of Sardinia? All the Europeans have, but many people
here. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just went there on a home exchange and fell in love with it. You get prices because I sold my business and I had some money floating around. And then I sold my downstate home and made a windfall on that because everything went crazy. The marketplace went crazy even before the COVID thing down there. So I decided to buy this little apartment. But I went in I didn't first look at the visa requirements. I wasn't retired at the time. I wasn't old enough to retire. And I had my business. So it wasn't that easy. So ultimately, It lasted almost 2 years, and I kept getting turned down because I kept applying for the wrong visa, and I didn't have the right help and the right advice and all that stuff. And somebody offered to buy it, so I sold it, and I came back. And I also had an experience where I almost got ripped off. I tried to buy another one. I mean, I had a lot of experiences that I learned from. I don't want to call them bad experiences because all of our experiences are just that. They're just experiences. And we have to learn from them. Otherwise, how are we going to learn anything at all, right? We have to have some mistakes along the way. And I did make some. I made a lot. But I also made some good friends there that I'm still friends with. And I learned the language, and I used to watch these cooking shows at night. So I learned how to cook vegan Italian food. So a lot of really good experiences came from that. Fortunately, though, and I was telling you about my Fady luck. My grandma Fady was a lucky woman, so I tend to be lucky in things. Well, I sold that apartment like a couple months before COVID. And I keep thinking, what if I had that apartment throughout COVID? That would have been really difficult to manage. Yeah. And it was difficult enough because I couldn't get a visa and stay there very long to manage at a distance. So it all worked out in the end to sell it and leave it as a really fond memory.
And then you come back to the States and you work for a while. And then finally you are old enough to retire. You decide to retire. And now you're moving on to another phase of your life. And ladies, here we go again. So before we get to the next phase of her European adventure, because there's another one coming, tell us about your memoir, Susan.
So I wrote a memoir. I kept a lot of outlines and journaling and such along the way. My whole home exchange experience, Italy experience, even the breakup, and decided to turn it all into a memoir. And I finished the memoir. It's in the hands of an agency, and I'm hopeful they find a publisher. If they don't, I'll find one. So it may take a few more months, but it's under review right now. But it goes into my home exchange experiences, my experience in buying that apartment in Italy, a lot of funny stories with friends and mistakes that I made. Well, the thing about a memoir is you have to be truthful. It's not fiction. And I'm really a trained fiction writer. I have a degree in creative writing. So I had to read other memoirs and see how they handle little honesty. So it is honest, and I outline my mistakes. But again, we all make them, and I learned from them. And there's a lot of funny stories in there. And there's some serious stuff. You know, I felt I had to get more personal than I was comfortable getting. And I did not intend to get that personal, but it was a memoir. And I felt like readers, well, the feedback I was getting from reviewers was readers need to know who you are. They're being too elusive. Who does this? You know, what kind of woman does all this stuff? So I got into a bit about my childhood and my upbringing in Rochester, New York, and just enough. The whole book does not center around that, but it leads into some of the adult experiences that I've had. So, my intent is that people laugh, that they cry, and that they gasp at that memoir.
Well, I think it's really interesting because we all have stories inside of us. And I think many of us, particularly women, don't think that our stories are valuable and don't think that, we think we have to be a celebrity to write a memoir. But you have an incredibly fascinating life, wonderful stories to tell, lessons that you've learned, ways that you've turned it. Every time, we talk, there's another avenue, another door that you've opened. And I know the people that are listening have done the same thing, right? And have overcome the challenges. And I know you address that in your memoir. So our stories are valuable, and you don't have to be Oprah Winfrey or anybody, these big celebrities to write your story, because it is so critically important. And I imagine part of it's healing to you too, right? To be able to get it all out.
It was very healing. It was difficult to write some parts of it, especially about my brother, who I had recently lost. But I got through it. And I'm better for it. Definitely. Yeah. You just have to learn to do it. And keep the Kleenex next to you as you write, and take your breaks and do what you have to do. Breathe, meditate, cry, drink some water, and then go back and keep writing.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Well, now what is next for you, Susan? Because your journey is not over. And ladies, I'm telling you, because You think, well, people, 40, 50, 60, whatever. I'm telling you, this is just another season of our lives. And Susan's got another one coming up. So where are you going next, Susan? What is next for you?
Well, because especially after writing that memoir and literally reliving the whole experience, because that's what you have to do to be accurate in your memoir. I thought, I really did love it in Italy. And then I even questioned, why could I have done things differently? Why did I sell that beautiful place? And then I was forced into fully retiring. Okay, so I retired, but I did a lot of consulting because I have all these skills, and why not? And I love what I do. Well, enter AI, and it interrupted my trajectory along those lines. And I'm really not willing to learn more. I'm just not. I'm done with school. I don't want to take any more courses. I don't want to optimize my skill set anymore. I'm just done. La finito. So I decided that I could probably expand my retirement and still live the quality of life that I enjoy living, which means travel, by going overseas. And I first thought, well, that Lisbon airport's really easy to get to and from, because Sardinia was off the table. It's too far away. And, I don't think Italy's going to work. Properties are extremely expensive there. Everybody's on steroids with real estate, except for this area that I found in southern Spain. They say they're on steroids with prices, but comparatively, compared to here, I can get something quite affordable. And I love southern Spain, the Andalusia region. I absolutely love it. I was just there in March. And I'm positive I could be happy there year round. And the visa is very attainable now because I am retired and I have those retirement incomes. So I would qualify a lot easier than I did in Italy because that's what they wanted, but I wasn't retired yet.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, my family will miss me and I will miss them, but I'll come back. I'll come back for probably the whole summer. It gets too hot over there, but I'm done with winter. And I also... The other deal breaker was, okay, I'm retired now. I have no work, no extra stuff. Sure, I can write another book, but 7 months of winter, fully retired? It's not going to work.
Yeah, winter in Buffalo is a long haul, right?
It is. And if you can get away for half the year, maybe have a place in Florida, which I don't want, or, go to Spain for half the year, sure, that would be nice, but I have to go to Spain first and get everything set up over there, and then I'll figure out how and when to come back here.
Yeah.
So that's my goal, and I'm hopeful that it happens by January. I've got everything in place. I'm so much smarter this time. I have the people in place I hired to help me obtain my visa, and I know exactly what needs to be done and when. I'm not going in feet first this time. I'm going in head first. And I'm looking forward to the journey very much. I look at properties every day and I get super excited. My house is going up for sale, and luckily the market's still good. So I can anticipate with comfort that I'll be able to get there. But still, faith, luck.
Taking chances, right? This is Susan's theme here. This is your brand. This is your theme. Taking chances. Ladies, are you listening? Taking chances. Making mistakes, giving yourself permission to make mistakes. We talk about that for others, and I hope we talk about that for our children. I think most of us do. But how many of us allow ourselves to do it? I myself have shared, Susan knows that I myself have relocated. I left my home. I sold my home after 20 years because I got tired of winters too, and I've relocated to a new home. And I don't know how long I'll be here, but I'm excited to be here now. And I wanted a new adventure, and I wanted something different. And I'm over 60. And I said, if I don't do it now, when will I do it? So, you've got to try because we only get this one life. So ladies, gentlemen, who is out there listening, write that book, take that trip, buy that house, take that adventure, make that friend, do whatever it is that you want to do, because the days are going by quickly, right? What is that saying, Susan, that the days are long, the years are short, or something like that, right? About how quickly time goes, right? Yeah. Especially when you're raising kids, right? It feels like the days are forever and ever.
I don't know that phrase in particular, but what I was thinking the other day is you blink and suddenly you're a senior citizen.
So thank you, Susan. I think we're going to tie up our time here, but what we're going to do is in our description here, we're going to put Susan's information for her socials And we're going to put the ways that you can contact her. You can follow her story. She's on Instagram and she's constantly showing the places that she's been to. So you can kind of follow her adventures on there too. And then when she releases her memoir, you can find out how you can get a copy of that as well. But I hope everybody takes away from this today that there are many adventures to be lived. And if you think my job is boring, I'm a nurse, I'm a teacher, I'm doing this, there's always something else to be done. Age is no factor. Susan, what's the last thing you want to leave people with?
Live your dream, because I don't know how many passes we get, but we have this one for sure. So live it. Live your dream.
And that's where we're going to leave it today. All right, everybody go out there after you listen.
Thanks, Kathy.
And after you subscribe to our YouTube channel, go out there and live your dream today. Thank you, Dr. Susan Ruckdeschel, for sharing your story with us today. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
And we look forward to seeing you.
Thanks for having me, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're so welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Until we meet again, live inspired.